Hello everyone. So as we had decided that I'll be the one who will be contributing the guideline of genital herpes in pregnancy. Let's go ahead and read the guideline for ourselves in the minimum possible time so that it becomes a kind of revision source for you. Going ahead with the guideline, this guideline will overlap in sexually transmitted infections too. So there is still scope if you have not done it in this module. Okay. Coming ahead with what is the basic etiology, and they have we know that there are two types. So one, the neonatal herpes can be of two types, and it can be because of HSV1 or it can be because of HSV2 too, right? And this occurs mainly because of the genital herpes in the mother, right? The babies, the 50% of babies, they have herpes or neonatal herpes from HSV1, and 50% will have from HSV2. Okay, guys. Going ahead, they have said that around 25% of the babies, they have this infection after the delivery. In the postnatal infection is mostly because of not maintaining a good hand hygiene, or because of a close relative having genital herpes or having herpetic lesions. So it is 25% is because of the postnatal infections, while 25% mostly occurs because of the transmission during the delivery part. Okay, so let us go ahead with the transmission and how it happens. Now, the factors that they are associated with the transmission, or they affect the transmission, are the type of maternal infection. So whether the mother has been infected previously or not, whether the mother has had a vaginal delivery or a cesarean section, whether she has got rupture of membranes or not, whether she has developed antibodies or not. So when has the infection occurred in the pregnancy? All these factors, they affect the transmission rate. Okay. Also, it can be seen that sometimes, very rarely, congenital herpes can occur because of the transplacental intrauterine infection, but most of the times it is during the delivery. Okay, so disseminated herpes is more common in the preterm infants. So what is disseminated is wherein the CNS is involved, the skin, eye, mouth, all the infections, all the other organs are involved. Is a disseminated preterm. There is a more chance of having that. Now, somebody having recurrent genital herpes, that mother must already be having the antibodies, and these antibodies are they are transmitted to the baby, and such babies, they are at very low risk of having neonatal herpes. Okay, because along with the herpes, they also have got antibodies coming, and they uh, do not develop herpes then, right? But it's not sure that those women who have recurrent herpes, it's not necessary that the babies will not have herpes. So there is still a chance of 0 to 3% of those babies having uh, herpes. Most of the times they may even have small localized lesions, but very, very, very rare, there is a chance that it may be disseminated too. Now we spoke about what disseminated herpes exactly means. So it in the mothers, it affects the brain, so causing encephalitis, hepatitis. It may cause disseminated skin lesions all over the body, and of course, women who are immunocompromised, specifically those who have got other infections like HIV, they are at more risk of having dissemination of herpes infection, and also more risk of shedding both the viruses like HIV and HSV both. So the baby is at risk of more risk of maternal to child transmission of HIV. Also, there is increase in the viral shedding of HSV, and so baby is more at risk of neonatal herpes too. Going ahead with the main guideline, which the protocols that we need to follow. Now, if a woman comes to us, a pregnant woman, with the first episode of genital herpes, mind you guys, it has been said that it is very difficult to differentiate between a primary and a recurrent herpes unless the mother knows it. So, because what happens is, if the mother doesn't recognize the first time she has had the lesions, then anytime it shows up may look like the primary lesion. So there may be a confusion there, and that is why there are tests that are carried out to find out whether the mother has got antibodies or not, or whether it is a primary or a uh, recurrent type of infection that the mother is carrying. Okay, but let us assume that this is the first time that the lady has presented with the lesions, and she is seeing such lesions for the first time. She has never had this. Call it as a primary herpes. Okay, if the mother has had some lesions before, and of course she's seeing it later on, it logically it is called as recurrent herpes. But it's, as I said, it's not necessary that the woman who is presenting with the lesions for the first time in the clinic is somebody who is actually having a primary lesion, because she might have had lesions and she might have not recognized, or sometimes they might now not have shown in such a manner the HSV infection, right? So now you got the difference between primary and recurrent. Going ahead with someone who is in the first or second trimester of her pregnancy and has got the herpes for the first time, let's say. Okay, so let me tell you that this is not going to increase the risk of spontaneous miscarriages in the first trimester. Whenever you see a woman with genital herpes, you need to refer her to genitourinary medicine physician, so GUM clinic that we used to call the sexually transmitted infection clinic. And therein, the diagnosis will be made by polymerase chain reaction, which is PCR. Okay, these guys are also going to screen her and take swabs for other sexually transmitted infections too. Okay, guys. However, the treatment of this patient should not be delayed, and the patient should be started with oral acyclovir. The standard dose is 400 milligrams 3 times daily for 5 days. I repeat, acyclovir 400 milligrams 3 times a day for 5 days. Remember, acyclovir is going to reduce the duration, severity of the symptoms, and it is also going to reduce the duration of viral shedding. But acyclovir is not licensed in pregnancy, though we do not see any kind of increase in the incidence of birth defects by acyclovir. Okay, there are some cases of transient neonatal neutropenia seen with them. Otherwise, acyclovir is quite well tolerated in pregnancy. But if the question comes as whether acyclovir is licensed, no, it is not licensed in pregnancy. Okay, guys? There is no evidence of increase in the risk of birth defects with acyclovir, famciclovir, valacyclovir. But remember, others are not recommended as the first line treatment. Okay? Only acyclovir is. Of course, the obstetrician needs to be informed, because the mother is going to be handled during labor by this obstetrician, and there has to be some protocol that needs to be maintained, which will be seen as the guideline goes ahead. The patient, we of course need to treat the patient symptomatically, and we need to give her paracetamol, we need to give her topical lidocaine, numbing creams, right? So 2% of gel, these will be helpful for her symptomatic relief. Now, most of the times, patients with this genital herpes, they generally present with lesions in the genital area, and very few times, if it is very painful and the patient has not come up to you as soon as the lesions have come, they start becoming very painful, so painful that most of the women, they generally come with retention of urine. So it is so painful that even passing urine is very much painful, and these women, they don't pass urine because of pain. Okay, so these patients, they might need catheterization as soon as they come to the clinic, and of course that's the first thing that you'll do if you have the fullest bladder, because that again adds to their pain. Okay, so we need to put in a catheter, we need to give her symptomatic relief, giving her paracetamol, giving her numbing creams, and then starting her with a cyclovir. Now, as I said, because this patient has had this infection in the first 2 trimesters. So in this time, the patient develops antibodies too. And by the time this patient is going to deliver the baby, she will be passing on her own antibodies to the baby too, right? So the risk to the baby of developing neonatal herpes reduces, and so these patients can be delivered vaginally too. However, to reduce the risk of neonatal transmission and also to reduce the risk of shedding, viral shedding during the time of labor and delivery, there is the daily suppressive acyclovir 400 milligrams 3 times daily from 36 weeks is to be started. And this is going to reduce the viral shedding and also going to reduce the need for cesarean section, right? Going ahead with someone who is having primary HSV and has come up after 28 weeks, that is in the 3rd trimester. Now, this infection in the last trimester is going to, there is a little evidence, though there needs to be more data on this, but it has sometimes shown to increase the risk of preterm labor and low birth weight along with stillbirth rates. Okay. uh, what is the dose that needs to be given here is oral acyclovir standard dose that we give for the 1st and 2nd trimester, that is 400 milligrams 3 times daily for 5 days. Okay, but this patient, because this patient has come up in the 3rd trimester, there is a suppressive dose that we used to give when the patient comes up in the first 2 trimester, that starts after 36 weeks, right? But because this patient has come up itself in the 3rd trimester, now the daily suppressive dose will start from there itself. Okay, so it is going to be there 400 milligrams 3 times daily until she delivers. Okay, guys. Now, going ahead, because this patient has come up in such a time wherein there is more risk of neonatal herpes to the baby, right? Because what happens is, guys, if the patient has come up with the primary herpes, uh, this patient is going to transmit the infection to the baby in around 41% of the times. So, which is a very high risk. And to prevent the baby from having this infection, a cesarean section will be recommended in the 3rd trimester. Okay. So if the patient comes up in the 3rd trimester, give her acyclovir, start her with the daily suppressive dose of acyclovir from there itself, recommend cesarean section for her. Now here, there is one more clause, that is, in around 15% of the times, as we said, that the woman presents with the first episode of clinical HSV infection, and it will actually be recurrent infection. That means clinically she may be showing up for the first time, but it might be there that she might have had the infection previously and the antibodies are already present. But to find out whether it is a recurrent or a primary infection, we need to do the HSV antibody testing, and this testing is going to take 2 to 3 weeks, which is a big time, specifically in the third trimester, because you never know, the patient may go in labor at any point of time. So at such point of time, you have to consider cesarean section for the patient until the report of the antibody testing comes as recurrent. So if the antibody testing gives you the uh, result as recurrent herpes infection, you have to, of course, switch the patient to expectant and vaginal delivery management, and you may consider vaginal delivery depending on if there is no obstetric reason, of course. Okay, guys, going ahead with someone having recurrent herpes infection. Now, as this patient has already had herpes previously, she has developed antibodies. She is going to give antibodies to the baby along with the when the baby is inside. So these antibodies are going to prevent this baby from developing the herpes, and the risk of transmission in such women is only 0 to 3%. So they are the babies with recurrent whose mothers have got recurrent genital herpes. Only 0 to 3% of them uh, are going to develop neonatal herpes, and this transmission rate 0 to 3% is with vaginal delivery, and 41% was for primary herpes. Okay. Now going ahead with the recurrent genital herpes, they generally are not that severe. They generally resolve within 7 to 10 days. You may have to give some supportive treatments like saline bathing, analgesics like paracetamol, as we saw. Very few times numbing infections may creams may be required like lignocaine, because they're not, mostly they are not that painful. And a vaginal delivery, as we said, should be anticipated, right? Here also, though it is a recurrent infection and though the antibodies are going to protect them, we need to have as much as less viral shedding during the delivery as much as possible. So here also, we need to give daily suppressive acyclovir 3 times. It should be considered from 36 weeks. Okay, so the same as that we had with primary infection in the first and the second trimester. Okay, so the same way. But here we don't have to give her acyclovir as soon as the infection has emerged, because it is a recurrent infection. It goes off, so only the supportive treatment is given, but the suppressive acyclovir is only for the time of labor. Okay. Now, going ahead with, there is no need of any sequential PCR in this. There is no increased risk of any other preterm labor or fetal growth restriction in these patients with recurrent genital herpes. Okay, so they are very less problematic. Now here are some women who directly come in labor with us and those who have got these lesions. So how do we manage them? Of course, we need to manage them by clinical assessment. Now these patients are in labor. We cannot send them to the gum clinic. We cannot wait for the microbiology reports, right? So this is going to be our area where things will be considered specifically from the obstetrician. Of course, a viral swab is needed and that needs to be sent. And remember this thing, this may come up as a SBA. The neonatologist needs to be informed, right? Whenever you see a primary episode, of course, as the recommendation goes, a cesarean section is recommended to all the women presenting with primary episode of genital herpes at the time of delivery or within 6 weeks of expected date of delivery. So the woman has developed primary herpes within 6 weeks of the expected delivery, expected date of delivery, you have to consider her for cesarean section. Okay. If you have got ruptured membranes, so somebody having ruptured membranes, then if you do a cesarean section within 4 hours for that lady, it is going to benefit in preventing the transmission. But it has been seen that a little few more hours of rupture of membranes and then doing a cesarean section can also be beneficial. So somebody having a rupture of membrane, you need to expedite the delivery and better to go for a cesarean section. Okay. Now remember here, that the patient has come up in labor to you. And herein, the oral acyclovir is going to take a lot of time. So by the time the oral acyclovir acts, the patient might deliver. So we need to act then and there. Of course, we need to use intravenous acyclovir here. The dose is for the mother 5 milligrams per kg every 8 hours. For the babies, it is going to be 20 milligrams per kg every 8 hours. Okay. So uh, so all this is considered for those mothers who are opting for vaginal delivery. Okay. Now you have to remember that as the same thing has been mentioned, that in primary episode genital herpes the risk of transmission is 41%. Okay. Although vaginal delivery should be avoided if possible in women who deliver vaginally in the presence of genital herpes, invasive procedures like the fetal blood sampling, the fetal scalp electrodes, rupture and the artificial rupture of membranes or the instrumental deliveries should be avoided, because though they are saying that that cesarean section, of course, is the recommended mode of delivery, sometimes the patients may come up in a very advanced labor, and wherein it is difficult to take those patients for cesarean section. So there, even if you have to go for vaginal delivery, try to use minimum intervention as much as possible. Okay, guys? Now, going ahead with the recurrent genital herpes. We all know that these patients, if they come in labor and they have already had this genital herpes, only the transmission rate is only 0 to 3%, and vaginal delivery is, of course, the mode of choice of delivery, right? So the final choice of vaginal delivery versus the cesarean section should be made by the mother, who should base her decision on the very low risk of transmission set against any other obstetric risk factors and the risks associated with cesarean section. So it is her decision to weigh both the risks. Okay. Now, somebody who has got recurrent herpes and spontaneous rupture of membrane, so expediting the delivery is considered, and that is going to reduce the risk of the fetus to HSP. Okay. Going ahead with genital herpes in PPROM. Okay, so preterm pre-labor rupture of membrane. Now, of course, a multidisciplinary team involving the obstetrician, the neonatologist, and the gum physicians, the genitourinary medicine physicians, are going to take care of this patient. If there is the initial conservative management is required, like if the patient comes to you and we can wait for some sake, say for sake of the baby or for the sake of the mother, for some reason we need to give her some conservative management for some time. In this period of time, you need to give her intravenous acyclovir, IV acyclovir, 5 milligrams per kg every 8 hours. Okay. Now, you do not have to skip on corticosteroids. You have to give the baby the corticosteroids, like the mother the corticosteroids for the development of the lungs of the babies, of course. And this is going to reduce the complications of preterm delivery to the baby. So along with the protocol that you are usually following, you just have to add intravenous acyclovir 5 milligrams if you are giving conservative management to the patients with primary genital herpes and PPRA. Okay. But if the patient is having recurrent genital herpes and having PPROM, then if the patient is coming to you before 34 weeks, then you have to give expectant management. It deals with uh, generally the more preference is given to the development of the baby. The preterm, we don't want any preterm delivery there, so we have to give her expectant management. And herein, even if you give oral acyclovir, it's okay. So oral acyclovir 400 milligrams 3 times daily, whereas in the primary infection we saw that IV acyclovir needs to be given, right? After 34 weeks with recurrent herpes, all the management about the mode of delivery is taken as per the guidelines of PPRM. Okay, so we have seen that in the guideline of PPRM that it all depends upon the baby's the morbidity, the mortality uh, depends upon the risks, the weighing of the risk that depending upon the time when the baby is when the mother is having PPROM, right? And you have to wait for the antiretroviral corticosteroids to act, and you may wait for 24 hours, right? So they that whole thing is related to the guideline of PPROM. So the same measures can be applied after 34 weeks. Of course, before 34 weeks, you have to wait for the baby to mature. So I can just summarize this that recurrent genital herpes with PPROM is not going to affect the neonatal herpes treatment as much as possible, except for you just have to give oral acyclovir 400 milligrams 3 times daily if it is before 34 weeks. Right. Now, management of HIV positive women with HSV infection. Now, this HIV, as we have seen, that HIV and HSV, when they come together, they are going to increase each other's power. And all this is going to happen in a multidisciplinary team. Of course, with the primary HSV, it is going to be managed according to the recommendations of the primary genital HSV infection. And we have seen how they are going to treat these women, right? So the cesarean section is, of course, the treatment of choice there for mode of delivery. But patients who have got recurrent HSV infection, herein the HIV positive, antibody positive women with genital HSV ulceration are more likely to transmit HIV infection independent to other factors. And we have seen that, right? And women who are HIV antibody positive and have genital herpes should be offered daily suppressive dose of 400 milligrams 3 times daily from 32 weeks. Okay, so there it was 36, and now for HIV patients, it is going to start early and it is going to start from 32 weeks because there is a chance that HIV women may have preterm delivery. Okay, if a vaginal delivery is planned, there is more chance of preterm delivery specifically in these women. So uh, give her from 32. There is currently no evidence to recommend daily suppressive treatment of HSV or HIV for HIV antibody when women who are HSV1 or HSV2 seropositive but have no history of genital herpes. So if there is no genital herpes, do not give any daily suppressive treatment for this HIV antibody positive women, right? Now, how the baby is to be managed. The general management, of course, is by the neonatologist, but those babies who are born by cesarean section, of course, we are doing cesarean section to reduce the risk of transmission of the HSV to the baby. So these babies are at low risk, and you just have to monitor for 24 hours. Just have to tell the parents about the good hand hygiene. Ask the patients to keep away from uh, uh, keeping their hand hygiene, not uh, letting the infected parents or the infected relatives go near the baby, and also keep an eye whether the baby becomes lethargic or has irritability or has got poor feeding. So these are the signs which will be telling us that the baby might have had HSV infection. Okay, whereas those babies who are delivered by spontaneous vaginal delivery in a woman with primary HSV infection within the previous 6 weeks. So these are the babies who are at highest risk. Now there will be two types of babies here. So the babies who are well, you need to take only the swabs from skin, conjunctiva, oropharynx, and rectum. So 4 places: skin, conjunctiva, oropharynx, and rectum, and they need to be sent to for this the PCR that we had mentioned. These babies need to be given IV acyclovir 20 milligrams per kg every 8 hours, and we need to follow the infection control with them. We need to follow the all the hand hygiene things with them, and we need to keep an eye on them. Okay, but of course breastfeeding is recommended and it is not contract. Okay, unless the mother has got herpetic lesions around the nipple. Whereas if the baby is unwell, now of course if the baby is unwell, you need to take the swabs from all the 4 things like SCORE that we generally say. So it is the skin, the lesions, the conjunctiva, the oropharynx, and the rectum. So all these areas you need to take, so all the 5 areas, and you need to take the lumbar puncture even if the CNS features are not present, and you need to give the baby a cyclovir. Okay, this is for babies which are unwell. Now some of the babies which are well, and they have been delivered by a woman who has got recurrent HSV, so they are managed in the same way as that we manage a cesarean section baby. You need to give monitoring for 24 hours, and you need to do an examination after 24 hours, see if the baby is becoming lethargic, and also see maintain hand hygiene amongst parents and relatives. Now there are some babies who may show up the signs of sepsis. Now herein, uh, for these babies, the surface swabs needs to be taken, the blood for HSV culture and PCR needs to be taken, IV acyclovir, uh, that is around 220 milligrams per kg every 8 hours needs to be given while awaiting the cultures. And in this, the neonatal team is the one who will be, of course, handling this baby. Uh, as we have seen that the postnatal transmission is there in around 25% of the cases, maintaining the hand hygiene, not allowing people who have got oral herpetic lesions or cold sores to kiss the neonate is of course going to prevent the neonatal herpes in baby. Going ahead to the most important thing for revision here, that is this appendix, and try and learn and by heart this appendix as much as possible. As of now, we have